Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. We're only a couple of weeks away from the Downtown Knoxville Boat Show, March 3rd through the 6th at the Convention Center. As always, Madisonville Marine will be on hand with incredible deals and savings for you. So how is this different from any other week? Well, they always have the best selection and prices, but during the boat show, they bring them to you. They bring them right here to downtown Knoxville. Madisonville Marine, there's no better place to buy a boat, and that includes their little island, or their big island, at the Downtown Knoxville Boat Show. All right, this week it was announced that a deal could not be reached on a new 12-team college football playoff plan. The ACC had been the chief stumbling block to changing the system, but it wound up being the alliance of Big Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC that kind of nixed it. Now the playoff will remain a 4-team system through 2025, 4 more years of the current deal. The 10 FBS conferences sacrificed, in theory, $450 million. Ryan and Jimmy, are you surprised that money didn't talk for once?
I'm personally not in this case, because I think still eventually the money will talk and this will probably get worked out, but I think right now it's viewed as, this is kind of viewed as a pretty existential thing for some of these conferences. I think there's a lot of concern about how it's going to all work and whether the SEC is going to take too much of the market share. And so I think there's just so many ways that could go wrong for these other conferences, and not opening as many doors as they think, that they want to get it right. So I think there's a lot of concern about this. So in this case, $450 million is a lot, but I think they know it's going to be there 4 years from now, and they've got to figure out what the landscape's going to be, how it's going to change between now and then, and make sure they're doing it in a responsible way.
I'm not surprised because, one, I think there's still some people still ticked off at the SEC. The other reason is you can't get 11 people to agree on anything nowadays, right? The climate of our country. I mean, they wouldn't agree that today's Sunday, because somebody in Australia is going to say, no, it's Monday. So you can't get people to agree on anything. So I'm not surprised at that. When I saw that it had to be a unanimous vote, I didn't think it would pass.
All right. David and Bob, I think Jimmy kind of referenced one of these things. Last summer, Greg Sankey had helped cook up a plan that appeared to have most everyone's blessing on this playoff. It really looked like, the first press releases about it made it sound like a 12-team playoff was all but done. Then he shocked the world and announced that Texas and Oklahoma, well, they announced they were coming to the SEC. All right, so you take 2 schools in the Big 12, and now everyone is leery of you, it seemed. That led to the alliance being formed between Big 10, Pac-12, ACC. No one's still sure what that is, other than just, well, we're not the SEC.
Legitimately, yeah.
So my question is, did Greg Sankey sabotage his own 12-team playoff deal by extending invitations to Texas and Oklahoma?
It's really hard to suss out the lines there because, for one,
sus for us.
There you go.
Try
so
to
for
suss.
one, you have master messenger Ari Fleischer overplaying his hand, quite frankly, talking to people that it was not as close as people made it sound. But you hired this guy to do messaging and whatever, it didn't really go that well. But there is a distrust there, certainly, by the other leagues that everything's going to be the SEC now. And, well, you took Texas and Oklahoma today. What's going to stop you from taking Clemson and USC and Oregon tomorrow? Okay. So it's hard to know. It didn't help, I would say that. But the people who want to chalk this up to this is why the playoffs not happening, I think that's probably an overstatement.
I'm one of those guys.
I'm about to say, I'll overstay.
All right.
I think there's a couple of things there. One, while you were doing this, you were trying to poach Texas and Oklahoma. And it was kind of in the backdoor way that you did it as well. Okay, if you've come across and got these guys over here and didn't talk anything about it, then what do you got really going on with this playoff system right here that you're not saying right now that as soon as the deal's done, you're going to let us know? So I think it was a little bit more out in the open. That's the way I'm sussing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're negotiating in good faith this plan for all of us.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we see that you were planning this and you knew you had these two all along. Yep. Hold on to this playoff talk. We don't know what you're up to. The mood on this thing certainly changed. Maybe they overstayed at the start, but it went from looking good to now there's, this other, the Axis and Allies form against one another.
Well, I think the counter to that is it costs you a level of collegiality for sure, but the flip side of it is, okay, well, if you keep the playoff where it is, I'm not so skeptical that if USC or Clemson gets in their mind they want to be in the SEC, and the SEC decides that that's a good idea, that you're going to do anything to stop that the playoff would have affected it.
I think they're just mad at the SEC.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think they're cutting off their own nose.
A little bit of a temper tantrum.
I think so.
Enough
and
Cecil.
I can't blame them for not trusting Sankey
Yeah.
after that either.
Pettiness in college sports. Now I've seen everything.
What?
When we come back, we're not talking about is it just, we're not talking about is it right. Of course, it's fair for the players to get paid. I want to know, is NIL and collectives, and the Spire Sports of the world, is that going to make college athletics better or worse? That's our question. Next, come on back.